Hello guys, online physique coach Jeffery here from jjphysique.com and the Optimal Physique Development Group, coming back at you with another hopefully quick, informative video. So what I wanted to go over with you guys today, so recently a really good review on the current literature was published on basically the abuse of anabolic androgenic steroids and the relative effects on fertility and HPG, or you could say HPTA axis recovery, so recovering endogenous testosterone post-use. How abuse is defined here is basically outside use of these drugs outside of the clinical setting, so not using them for any kind of hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, more so using them for sporting, so performance enhancing, and or for your own, what's the word I'm looking for? Just, yeah, using them outside of a clinical setting, so using them like how bodybuilders use them. We don't use them for the reasons that they were clinically synthesized for the most part. We are using them for performance enhancing or to generate hypertrophy or fat loss outcomes, which is not what they're for. So what I've done is I did share a post on this review recently. It's really well written, really brilliant, so please guys do go and read the full review. I'll attach a link to the abstract below. The abstract doesn't tell you too much. If you can sign up to the journal and read the full review, that's great. Or if you guys want to use a website like Sci-Hub to read the full review, then great, do so. But I'll attach the research notes, the research paper, the review in the description box below. Please go and read it. But what I wanted to do was just give you guys some generalized points that I think are useful to my audience that we can take from this review. A lot of them are things that we probably already know, but just know that this is evidence and research back to these points. So yeah, I've gone through the review with a fine tooth comb and taken out some points that I think are really useful for our population, for people that maybe won't read the research, although I do recommend that you do to get the full picture. So excuse me looking away from the camera here because I've made these notes. So firstly, prolonged hypergonadism is common among ex-anabolic androgenic steroid users. I think we probably already knew that. So hypergonadism is basically clinically low testosterone, so your endogenous testosterone is affected. Having low testosterone in the clinically low range, which for most reference ranges is going to be below 200 nanograms per deciliter, is very common among ex-anabolic steroid users. I think we already know that. That's why most long-term anabolic steroid users end up blasting and cruising rather than coming off, and eventually end up on TRT protocols for the rest of their life. So yeah, we probably already knew that, but that's what the research is telling us to. Anabolic androgenic steroid induced hypergonadism is the most common cause of what's called profound hypergonadism. That's basically total testosterone under 50 nanograms per deciliter. Anyone that's ever had low testosterone, like under 50 nanograms per deciliter, is ridiculously low. At that point, your health will be massively affected over the long term. You'll feel absolutely awful. Your physique and performance will take a big knock. And this is especially in men less than 50 years old. So the most common cause of having extremely low testosterone levels in a clinical setting is due to anabolic androgenic steroid use. It's possible that some synthetic androgens have irreversible toxic effects to the testes, which may explain why some anabolic androgenic steroid users has persistent hypergonadism, even after recovery of hypothalamic and pituitary function. So that's something that you guys have probably seen on your blood work, or others, or a lot of you coaches will see that LH and FSH come back online fairly quickly, sometimes within days, definitely within months, but endogenous testosterone generally never comes back. The literature these are referring to is the use of nandrolones in particular. 90 NOR compounds, like nandrolone and trenbolone, are very hard for the HPG axis to recover from in terms of producing endogenous testosterone. So you see a very persistent, prolonged effect, sometimes lasting forever, most notably in guys that use these compounds. I'm going to try not to say in between every point. HPTA recovery following the cessation of anabolic androgenic steroid use may be prolonged, and during this period endogenous production remains reduced. So just like I was just saying, the period of you coming off these anabolics, your endogenous production is going to be down regulated to what it was prior, typically in the clinically low range, which can last a very long time, sometimes forever. A recent study, I said again, didn't I? A recent study reported that among long-term anabolic androgenic steroid misusers, steroid withdrawal hypogonadism appears to be the most common and under-recognized, frequently prolonged and associated with substantial morbidity. So basically people with low testosterone die younger than people that have testosterone within the physiological range, and it's the most common effect or side effect, a deleterious health concern of coming off of anabolic androgenic steroids. Another cross-sectional study from Denmark suggested that former anabolic androgenic steroid abusers had decreased serum testosterone levels and hypogonadal symptoms years after cessation. So we know from lots of prior literature that having testosterone below the physiological range, even below the midpoint of the physiological range, for example, there's some research on cardiac infarction, which is like heart attack, cardiac issues, and stroke, that people under 500 nanograms per deciliter are more likely to have those issues. So people with low testosterone die younger, basically, and the former anabolic steroid users have decreased serum testosterone years after coming off of steroids. So it's very prolonged. All of the research is pointing towards these effects being very prolonged, sometimes forever, and in this case years. They still had it, it would probably continue. Again. Duration of anabolic androgenic steroid use was strongly associated with decreased levels of inhibin B and serum anti-Müllerian hormones, suggesting that the extent of abuse may increase the risk of permanent fertility impairment. So what it's saying there is dose-dependent fertility is going to head down. So your general spermatogenesis, sperm motility, is going to be down-regulating in a dose-dependent fashion, essentially. The more steroids you use for the longer period of time, the less likely your spermatogenesis is to come back online, so fertility is more likely to be affected. Following anabolic androgenic steroid withdrawal, gonadotropin levels gradually increased to reach the levels prior to AAS use after a period of 13 to 24 weeks, whereas serum testosterone remained lower compared with baseline. So like I was saying, we generally see LH and FSH and just these gonadotropin hormones come back online fairly fast, so that's not the issue. The issue is somewhere along this like downstream of effects that your actual endogenous, so your own testosterone production, isn't coming back online. I've theorized and hypothesized that it's something to do with oxidative damage to the testes, but I don't know, we don't know, we don't have the literature on that yet. But bringing LH and FSH, and even fertility for that matter, back online is a lot easier than bringing your own testosterone production online. Testosterone used as hormonal contraceptive in men demonstrated a 67% probability of sperm recovery within 6 months and 100% within 24 months. So again, fertility comes online pretty easily. So 100% of men, after using exogenous testosterone, so their HPTA, their HPG axis was shut down, their fertility did manage to 100% come back online within 24 months. So fertility is not really the issue here. We also have other fertility drugs like Clomid, Proviron within certain spermatogenesis ranges, HCG, HMG. These things make recovery of fertility fairly easy as long as you didn't have a prior issue with azoospermia before exogenous anabolic androgenic steroid use. The issue is testosterone production. There is evidence that HCG and SERMs, so SERMs being selective estrogen receptor modulators like tamoxifen for example, may be helpful in restoring spermatogenesis in men with testosterone related infertility. We know this in the bodybuilding community. People have been doing it for years, using HCG and tamoxifen, Clomid, Proviron, HMG. We know that that brings fertility back online. There's tons of anecdote behind that. Again, fertility is not really an issue. Final point is a point that I've made a lot of times but had a lot of flack for, but it's good to see some research backing this now. The use of PCT drugs prolong underlying hypothalamic suppression and further delay recovery from AAS use. So I've said this a lot. I don't personally see any efficacy in the use of PCT protocols. In my multitude of anecdotes over the years with clients or people on forums or whatever, I've never seen PCT actually help bring endogenous testosterone back online and just simply be another means to synthetically bring up things like LH and FSH without actually being able to kick endogenous testosterone back in, as all these points of the research reference show now. I think if you want to come off anabolics, just come off and hope for the best, although as this research is all pointing towards, you're probably not going to come back online. Okay, so they were the main points I made here. So to summarize, fertility is not such an issue with anabolic steroid use, but it is dose dependent. I've managed to bring people's fertility back online, even just dropping them to a TRT dose and checking spermatogenesis and motility, and find that they're fine, or in the worst cases using drugs like HMG, HCG, tamoxifen, Clomid, and getting spermatogenesis back. Over time, as we can see, there's some literature that 100% of men that had previously used exogenous anabolic steroids managed to bring their fertility back online within 24 months, 100%, so not an issue. However, endogenous testosterone production is another story, and this is why I consider steroid use to be a lifelong commitment if health is going to be your main focus, because as we can see, all of these prior anabolic androgenic steroid users never managed to bring their endogenous production back online. Generally, people do, it happens, especially if it's like your first blast of anabolics and it's not a ridiculously large dosage and it's not with 19 NORs. Eventually your endogenous testosterone will probably come back online, but in reality, how many people only do one blast? Very few. You know, maybe you decide this isn't for you, great, come off and then wait until you require testosterone replacement therapy maybe later in life. If this is something that you're doing progressively, you're going to be doing more than one blast over time, and you care about your health, then you want to avoid these hypergonadal periods as much as possible. So I tend to suggest people just run a true testosterone replacement therapy dose, wherever that may be for you, that puts you somewhere in the 700 to 900 nanogram per deciliter range. And there is also some research to point towards extended periods over 900 nanograms to point towards more deleterious health concerns, primarily with risk factors involved in stroke, like greater stroke incidence of men that had testosterone over 1000 nanograms per deciliter for extended periods. So something like 150 milligrams of testosterone per week, do that for maybe 8 weeks post blast, and then look at your blood work and see where it's sitting. If it's sitting in the mid-range of the physiological range of testosterone, great. That's where I would suggest most people keep their testosterone whilst they're trying to correct any health markers, and just taking time off in between super physiological blasts. So yeah, thanks for that, guys. That's basically my opinion on long-term steroid use. I don't support people using PCT as such because there's no evidence that I can see behind the use. I don't like the idea of people just going on and coming off either, because hypergonadal periods we know have long-term deleterious health concerns. I'd rather somebody just never tread that water and simply use a TRT dose of exogenous testosterone in between blasts. So this anabolic steroid use should be seen as a long-term, lifelong commitment, which is a serious consideration for people that are going to use it. It's not something that you can just flit in and out of, so be very aware of these risks before you use anything. Alright guys, I'm going to put this review in the description box below. Please, if you can, go and read it and dig through the research and stuff, because it will massively further your knowledge on this drug use. So, yep, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.